Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open here in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Nick Miller alongside Chris VanMeter. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. It's good to be back for some Legacy action.
It is.
Now you are a man that has played a lot of Legacy decks.
Yes.
Since I've been on the Open Series doing coverage, you've been all over the place. Reanimator, Delver variants, Infect, Sneak and Show, you name it. But today, you're playing Omni-Tell. Now tell us how you've come to this conclusion and why this build of the deck is where you want to be this weekend.
Well, it's the first time that I've actually played an Omni-Tell deck, and it's been around for a while, but the newest incarnation is what's really drawn me to it. I feel like Show and Tell is just hands down the most powerful card in Legacy, and you know, of those decks that you've listed, Reanimator, Sneak and Show both have Show and Tell the card Show and Tell in it. They're just different variants of Show and Tell decks. And this is the next place to go, and I think it's very well positioned right now because of just how absurd dig through time is in the deck. Treasure Cruise proved to be too good for Legacy. The delve mechanic is just very, very good in a format that's just dominated by cheap spells and fetch lands, and dig through time is in this deck just as good as Treasure Cruise was in the blue-red Delver decks. It's just busted. Right.
Now we saw this build of Omni-Tell kind of pop up at Grand Prix Kyoto, Shouta playing it, of course. And I really like what this deck is doing compared to what it used to be doing. It used to have a bunch of fat in it between like Dream Halls, Into the Infinite and all that. But this is a much more streamlined version. Talk about how this deck operates.
Yeah, so it's just, you have 16 1-mana / free cantrips between Preordained, Ponder, Brainstorming, Ataxian Probe. And all of those are used to fuel Dig Through Time, which is just a replacement for Enter the Infinite. So once you actually start comboing off by putting Omniscience into play, instead of drawing your entire deck, you can just chain Dig Through Times and use those to find the cards that you need to actually win. But in games where you don't have the nuts and you're just not Show and Telling Omniscience into play, you can still play this grindy game with Dig Through Time where it can help you assemble your combo, and then you can win at that point. So before, if you didn't have a great hand, you would just be stuck with all these Enter the Infinites in your hand. But now Dig Through Time is an actual Magic card, and a very good one at that.
So the game plan here, resolve Show and Tell, get Omniscience into play hopefully, then you get to cast Emrakul. And because you're not like sneak attacking it and that kind of stuff, you're hard casting it, you get to take the extra turn.
Correct, and it also plays around one of the most important hate cards to be printed in some time, Containment Priest. So Sneak and Show has mostly fallen off of the radar because of how good Containment Priest is against it and how accessible it is to decks like Miracles, which is extremely popular. So that matchup isn't very easy, by any imagination, but now that they have Containment Priest, it's just very difficult for you to beat them. But with this deck, we're usually putting Omniscience into play and casting Emrakul, which gets around Containment Priest. Not saying that you can't just cast Show and Tell and put an Emrakul into play, because unsurprisingly, a lot of decks just can't beat the card anyways.
But against things like Karakas and all that, the Death and Taxes way of trying to beat the card, not anymore.
Correct, you can just cast it. So it's just as good as Sneak Attack was against Karakas. Now I can just cast it, get an extra turn, get to attack. If they bounce it before I attack, I can just cast it again and take another extra turn. And there's no way for them to stop you from getting the Annihilator trigger with the Karakas now.
Which is usually enough to just win the game on the spot. The thing here that I see when I look at this deck is Brad Nelson likes to throw around the term velocity. And your deck doesn't have a bunch of these cumbersome pieces anymore. You only have 2 Emrakul and then the 4 Omniscience. You're just all dig. You're just filling your graveyard with cantrips. You even got an Anticipate in here. You're just straight digging every turn, or Impulse, sorry. Not Anticipate, the better version. The better version. We are just digging every single turn. And there's only 2 of the Soul Lands, so 2 City of Traders, no Ancient Tomb. Those cards can't cast Dig Through Time, which is a testament to just how important the card is to the deck. Like, we are, for the most part, a Dig Through Time deck that wins with Show and Tell, as opposed to a Show and Tell deck that happens to have Dig Through Time in it, which is the big paradigm shift from thinking for building these types of decks from before, because it just makes it much easier for you to operate against the hate, and people still have to play scared because you can kill them at any point. Which is another sweet thing, because we have Cunning Wish, which gives us a wish board. Once you have Omniscience in play, you can cast everything for free. So Cunning Wish allows you to utilize up to 15 additional cards in your sideboard, which is pretty sweet, and we have some sweet ones there too. We'll move to that here in just a minute. We'll go over your permission suite. You just got Force of Will and Spell Pierce, and then you have a couple like blasts and stuff that can be situational post board. but for the most part, Force of Will, Spell Pierce is enough.
Yeah, they're just great rates. Obviously, Spell Pierce only 1 mana. Force of Will is free. With the blue card, or if you have Omniscience in play, it's also just free. But there isn't a lot that we're going to care about them doing.
Right.
For the most part, we're just going to be using our mana mostly every turn, casting our cantrips, trying to sculpt the hand to actually kill them. Yeah, there just really isn't a whole lot that we care about them doing. Even like Delver or Nimble Mongoose on turn 1 can sometimes be too slow because we're just going to kill them on like turn 4.
Exactly. All right, let's look at the Wish board here. Cunning Wish allows you to get this Return to Ravnica All-Star Firemind's Foresight. Break down what this card does.
Well, that is the key card in the sideboard when you're looking at the Cunning Wish game plan. A lot of lists would play like 3 digs main and then 1 dig in the board, so that you can just like wish for a value dig in the mid game, or even wish for a dig to start going off once you get Omniscience in play. But dig through time is so good, I just want them all in my deck so I can draw them and cast them. And I'm going to be using Cunning Wish. There really isn't like a value Cunning Wish. So for the most part, you're just going to be wishing either for like a Flusterstorm or a Pyroblast to force through your Show and Tell,
right,
or for like a Lightning Bolt to kill a troublesome creature. But once you start comboing off, you can Cunning Wish for Firemind's Foresight, which lets you get 3 instants out of your deck into your hand, mana cost 1, 2, and 3. So it can get Brainstorm or Spell Pierce are the 1 mana instants in the main deck, usually a Brainstorm. Impulse is the singleton 2 mana instant in the deck. So there's going to be times where you'll Firemind's Foresight and have already used the Impulse, so you're just not going to get one, which is
so you only get 2 cards.
Only 2 cards, which is fine because the 3 mana instant is always just going to be another Cunning Wish. So you basically get to turn a Cunning Wish into a Cunning Wish plus 1 or 2 cards. And from that point, if you can't find whatever it is you're looking for with the Brainstorm and or the Impulse, you can just wish for an Eladamri's Call, which is a green-white instant. So we can't actually cast it outside of having Omniscience in play, but it lets you go through your deck for a creature, put it into your hand. So you just get Emrakul, cast it with your Omniscience, and then go from there.
Now you still have the Release the Ants combo that a lot of these decks were doing pre this rendition of the deck.
Yeah, I still think it's worthwhile having a way to kill them outside of attacking with Emrakul. Because sometimes they might just have, let's say you're at 5 and they have 6 lands and like 3 Tarmogoyfs in play.
Right.
Attacking them with an Emrakul isn't going to get the job done, so you still want to have a way to kill them outside of doing that. It's a little more difficult to assemble the combo in this build since we don't have something like Enter the Infinite to draw our entire deck and set it up. But there are still ways to do so. Primarily, you're just going to be finding an Emrakul, brainstorming it, or finding an Emrakul or an Omniscience, or even a Dig Through Time since it costs 8. Brainstorming it back to the top of your library, and then using Cunning Wish to find Release the Ants, and then just cast it over and over again. One of the things that you can do is against decks that you're expecting them to bring in just like a bunch of Ensnaring Bridges, or just ways to stop you from attacking with Emrakul, is you can board in the Eladamri's Call, so you have just like a stone uncastable card in your main deck, but once you get Omniscience in play, you can wish for Firemind's Foresight, which then lets you find Brainstorm, Eladamri's Call, Cunning Wish. So you can call for an Emrakul, brainstorm it to the top of your deck, and then use the wish that you found to get Release the Ants and kill them. So it makes it so the first wish is an actual instant kill, which is something that I think you need against like Mud or Painter, or something that you could expect could have like 4x Ensnaring Bridge in their deck.
A lot of those decks have the Ensnaring Bridge to shut down this type of deck specifically.
Exactly.
Now you have a way around that. Okay, other sideboard cards. You got a couple Lightning Bolts floating around here.
Yeah.
Some Pyroclasms to deal with troublesome creatures. I'm assuming Meddling Mage.
Yeah, Meddling Mage for the most part. Also, just ways to kill like Thalia. Thalia can be pretty good against the deck. You can still win through it, but it's a little tough. Most of the time it involves just attacking with Emrakul.
Now the real spice in the sideboard is the Young Pyromancer sideboard plan. What decks are you looking to kind of go into this shell?
Yeah, Young Pyromancer is great. And in my article this week, I talked about this deck, and I want to give props to whoever came up with the Pyromancer sideboard plan. Don't know if it was Shouter or not, but it's genius. I've been wanting to play Pyromancer and Dig Through Time and the Sneak and Show shells for a while, but you can't when you have all these City of Traders and Ancient Tomb, and Lotus Petal doesn't even trigger Young Pyromancer, so it's just really awkward. But Pyromancer is awesome, and honestly, any excuse I get to play with the real elementals and not the Dylan Donagans.
I was going to say, you even get to use your own token.
Will be good. But Pyromancer is really good against any of the decks that just don't have any creatures in them. A good example is something like Miracles.
Right.
So Miracles, like, they're going to board out their 4 plows. They might keep in 1 or 2 terminus as a way to just like snipe an Emrakul if they happen to get lucky, but they can't really afford to have cards like that in their deck post board. And you just play Young Pyromancer, and it's very difficult for them to beat it.
Then you put them in a very interesting situation if you go to a third game. How much do they want to hedge
do I got
to
it
this?
or do I not?
Right.
I also think the Pyromancer is probably pretty good in the mirror too. If I happen to play against like the Stone Mirror, I'm going to be boarding them in, just as ways to get on the board early and then, put pressure on them before before the combo battle starts to happen. Plus, I can even envision situations where we have enough tokens in play where we can weather an attack from Emrakul and then kill them on the backswing using our own Omniscience. So I think that Pyromancer is actually pretty sweet for the mirror too.
Anytime you can survive an Emrakul hit, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Other cards in sideboard, you got a Through the Breach here. I imagine you're just more Emrakul action.
Yeah, there's going to be games where you'll have Emrakul but no Omniscience or Show and Tell, so you can just like Cunning Wish for Through the Breach and then attack them with an Emrakul. Since we're not doing other damage, there's going to be times where that's not going to kill them, but it will wipe their board and give us time to assemble something else.
Does what Emrakul does.
Yeah.
You got a Pyroblast and a Red Elemental Blast. More stuff against
Meddling Mage.
Right.
Other blue spells, just a way to force through our spells. The blasts are just very, very good.
Right. So you took this deck through an IQ last weekend. Pretty good. Any other reps with it, or are you just comfortable with the deck already?
I played a bit online, on Magic Online. Played it in the IQ. I've been doing some testing at the house. For the most part, that's about it. But once I started playing the deck, because I've played so much Show and Tell before, it just kind of clicked as far as how to actually navigate the games. The most difficult part that I found picking up the deck was the sideboarding. Because you have the wish board, you can't really sideboard too much because you want to still have access to cards. But having the redundancy of things like Pyroblast and Lightning Bolt make it really, I don't want to say really easy to sideboard, but there's configurations that you can figure out when sideboarding to make it work.
Yeah, it seems almost like a Storm deck where you don't want to sideboard too much because of all the working pieces.
Yep, but you still have to sideboard because people will have hate.
Exactly. All right, well the deck looks great. You've already split an IQ with it, so you've got your bearings with it. You've got a bunch of rounds of action today. I wish you the best of luck. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Worcester.